hindi niya gawa-gawa yung kanyang sakit. Nakikita talaga sa mga laboratory tests. Hindi ko kakasapin si BBM para kay dating Pangulong Duterte to go to him and request on behalf of former President Duterte. No? On deck na si Veronica, si Kitty, para mag-Pasko at mag-New Year doon sa Hague. Si Veronica at si Mira.
Welcome po sa Opinion TV PH channel. Mga kababayan, sabay-sabay po natin panoorin ang balitang ito at sama-sama tayong mag-react sa comment section. Please support my channel. Like, share, and subscribe.
Yung sa arrest ni PRD is not about request ko sa kanya. Ang sinasabi ko doon is yung pagpasok ng ICC dito sa ating bansa because it's an affront on our national sovereignty. And I questioned that on paper and he answered on paper as well na hindi pa papasukin ang ICC. And I think lumabas na yung papel na yun kasi parang nilift siya sa isang group chat ng mga lawyers.
Ma'am, ano po ang tsansa ng defense team na makapanalo sa kaso po ni PRD po dun sa Hague?
Ma'am, hindi ko ma-assess yung chances nila kasi hindi ko nakikita yung lahat ng documents na nasa prosecution. Sila lang kasi ang nakakakita nun, ma'am. Hindi siya pinapakita ng abogado dahil bawal sa kanila yon na ipakita nila. At kapag kasi na-sanction ang abogado or na-disqualify ang abogado, mahirap siya kasi kailangan maghanap ng bagong team.
Kumusta po ang moral ni PRD doon sa...
ano siya, ma'am, malungkot. Malungkot siya sa nangyayari sa bayan. Oo. Kasi frustrated siya kasi hindi siya makatulong ba. Gusto siya tumulong, hindi siya makatulong.
Sa mga nangyayari ngayon?
Yes, ma'am.
Sa mga controversies?
Yes, ma'am. Sa nangyayari na korupsyon sa administrasyon.
Reaction niyo po sa sinabi ni Ombudsman Remulla na first thing na gagawin niya as the ombudsman hahalungkatin niya ulit yung kaso po ninyo ng confidential fund.
Yes, halungkatin niya na ng halungkatin lahat sa akin, no? Pero wag lang siya maging selective. Halungkatin niya din yung mabilisan na pag-dismiss ng kaso ng drugs case ng anak niya. At yung iba pang mga kaso at posibleng kaso ng mga kaalyado nila. So, wala tayong problema dyan, halungkatin lahat.
Last on my end po, sa palagay nyo, bakit yung pagiging presidente nyo po, vice-presidente nyo po ang parang idinidiin talaga sa different issues po, and of course, PRRD din po sa mga corruption, kasi di ba may mga ginagawang investigation pero palaging napupunta po sa Duterte administration ang mga...
Opo, ma'am. Ang tawag po dyan, ma'am, sa ganyan is political scapegoating. Ang ginagawa po ng isang tao o ni BBM ay dahil wala siyang ginagawa, walang mga proyekto, walang accomplishments ang kanyang gobyerno at matindi ang corruption na ginagawa nila. Ang ginagawa nila ay inaatake nila yung kalaban nila or perceived na kalaban nila sa politika para doon nakatuon yung atensyon ng mga tao at tuloy-tuloy lang yung kawalan ng accomplishments ng gobyerno at tuloy-tuloy lang yung kanilang corruption sa budget. So, ang term po dyan ay political scapegoating.
Thank you po.
Ma'am, as a lawyer, malaking bagay po ba kung ang Philippine government mismo ang magmamanifest, say parang para i-release si PRD? Kasi at one point in time, nabanggit ni Attorney Kaufman na waiting na lang sila sa pakikipag-usap sa administration o sa government on the possibility of the release of the former president.
Hindi ko alam, ma'am, kung hindi ko po masabi kung ano po kung positive ba yon para sa kaso ni dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte kung ang gobyerno ng Pilipinas ang magsabi na i-release siya pabalik dito sa Pilipinas or kahit saan man. Pero sa paniwala ko naman, ma'am, umaabot lahat ng mga ginagawa ng Philippine government doon sa ICC. Tulad na lang noong sabi ko, pagpapasalamat namin, pamilya, sa Senate resolution na nagsasabi na bigyan ng house arrest si dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte for humanitarian considerations. At totoo din naman kasi talaga dahil this is a fragile and ailing 80-year-old man. At hindi niya gawa-gawa yung kanyang sakit. Nakikita talaga sa mga laboratory tests na nakikita ng mga doktor.
Ma'am, if ever, are you willing to talk to the President for the sake of PRRD?
No, ma'am. Hindi ko kakausapin si Hindi ko kakausapin si BBM para kay dating Pangulong Duterte. Dahil ang sa akin is yung ginawa nila na kidnapping ng isang Pilipino sa loob, government kidnapping ng isang Pilipino sa loob ng ating bansa. There's no going back sa ganun, ma'am. Trabaho niya yon at trabaho niya yon in a sense na inaprubahan niya na hindi niya dapat ginawa bilang isang Pangulo. Kung ano man yung problema ni legal problem ni dating Pangulong Duterte ngayon ay problema na yon niya at syempre ng pamilya namin dahil ama namin siya. Pero for me to go to him and request on behalf of former President Duterte, no.
Ma'am, yung host
Because
country
there's no going back sa ginawa nila na rendition.
Ma'am, yung host country po na nag-agree na tanggapin si PRRD, within Europe po ba ito?
Hindi ko masabi, ma'am. Hindi ko masabi kung anong country yon dahil unang-una hindi siya pinapalabas ng ICC at kung magsabi man ako kung anong continent siya, baka mag-speculate yung mga tao.
But at this point, they're still open po to accept and then they meet the standards po of the ICC in case po na mapagbigyan interim release.
Ang huling pag-uusap namin ng abogado patungkol sa bansa na ito at sa interim release ay meron pa rin cooperation yung bansa doon sa appeal na ginawa nila para sa denial ng interim release.
Ma'am, I hate to ask this, ma'am, pero are you already like for conditioning the former president ng yung bang worst case scenario na he might really be staying there until Christmas?
Oh yes, ma'am. Expected na talaga namin yon.
Aware po siya.
I mean, kinukondisyon niyo na ba yung utak niya na baka hanggang Pasko, hindi ko pa?
Hindi ko pa kasi siya nakakausap lately, but nakakausap naman niya yung abogado niya araw-araw. So alam ko na meron siyang information na ganun yung mangyayari. Ang sa akin lang ngayon is hinahanda ko yung schedule ng pagbisita ng mga family members.
But the family is looking at that worst case scenario na baka pag magpasko nga talaga si Presidente doon.
Yes, ma'am. Kasi on deck na si Veronica, si Kitty, para mag-Pasko at mag-New Year doon sa Hague. Si Veronica at si Mira. Napapansin ko naman kasi na napapansin naman natin lahat na si BBM hindi siya pumipili base sa kwalifikasyon ng kanyang mga appointees. Napapansin na pumipili kung sino yung kaalyado nila at sumusunod sa kanila.
Pero kayo mag-tingin nyo, qualified ba si Sara?
Hindi ko siya kilala. Hindi ko siya kilala at hindi ko alam kung anong nagawa niya para sa bayan, para siya umabot. At hindi ko alam kung ano yung nagawa niya para sa legal circles and legal community and judicial system para siya maupo ng Department of Justice Secretary. No? Ang masasabi ko lang ay hindi siya magaling na tagapagsalita ng Office of the President because she brings embarrassment to the country. Kasi ang tagapagsalita ng isang Pangulo, pinakikinggan niya ng global community, ng international community. At pag nakikita ng mga kapitbahay natin, yung mga malalayong lugar na ganito magsalita ang tagapagsalita ng Office of the President, nagdadala yun ng kahihiyan sa bayan.
Alright, thank you.
Attorney Nicholas Kaufman, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How are you today?
I'm well, thank you. So is the former president, of course,
Thank you, Attorney.
more importantly.
Attorney, the pre-trial chamber, one, recently rejected the renewed request for interim release, which you described as erroneous. Could you exemplify what makes the decision, in your view, legally and procedurally flawed?
When I describe a decision as being erroneous, I'm using legalese. It's a term that we have to use if we're going to make an appeal, because appeals are decided on the basis of errors of law and errors of fact. So we have identified what we believe to be a number of errors of law and fact in the decision on interim release. We've filed our notice of appeal, and today we've filed our brief in which we give our reasons for these alleged errors. Now, I'm not allowed to obviously detail those errors because the document has been filed confidentially.
Attorney, do you believe that the pre-trial chamber, one, failed to properly consider all or any of the key arguments or evidences presented by the defense?
As I said, I've raised a number of issues on appeal, one of which is the failure to properly consider the very stringent conditions of release which were proffered by a state party. I'm not going to tell you which state party that is, but we believe that the first instance chamber, pre-trial chamber, should have taken these things under consideration and give a better weight to them. We believe that that was an error, but once again, I don't want to get drawn too much on the exact nature of the appeal. I'm not allowed to detail it.
Attorney Nick, the pre-trial chamber, one, in its decision, has taken into account the public statement made by Vice President Inday Sara Duterte. Do you consider this a form of injustice or a breach of judicial impartiality?
I don't want to comment on that, but some of the statements that were made by the Vice President were clearly made in jest. I mean, there was this comment about organizing a jailbreak.
Yeah.
And I have to laugh at that, quite frankly. Everybody who hears that knows that it was a joke. No one can really seriously believe that the Vice President of a sovereign nation would organize a jailbreak from a place like this. I mean, come on, let's be real about this.
Because, Attorney, I was there when the Vice President made those statements.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you understood it as a joke just like everybody else.
Exactly, Attorney. Attorney Nick, in what ways might this inclusion of such statements influence directly or indirectly or prejudice the pre-trial chamber one's decision-making processes?
Well, I think that excessive comments on the judicial activity is not something that should be encouraged. The judges of the International Criminal Court have a job to perform, just as counsel have a job to perform, and they shouldn't have their every act scrutinized in the media. Once again, I give the judges the credit of performing their duty as is expected, and I hope to convince them now on appeal that the former president should be released.
Attorney, in what ways should we take into account the timeline for the court to make or to render judgment to the appeal that you have submitted?
You mean a judgment on
the
interim release,
yes.
on appeal? Well, once again, the liberty of the individual, interim release, is a fundamental right. Obviously, that right can be curtailed if the judges find that there is cause to curtail that right. And the curtailment of that right is founded normally on three factors, one of which is the risk of flight, one being the risk of interference with witnesses, and the final one being the risk of continuing commission of crimes. But as I said, it's a fundamental right which should be decided speedily, expeditiously, and I anticipate that once the pre-trial chamber has received all the submissions, obviously the prosecution will have to respond to our appeal, and also the victims will be given the opportunity to respond to our appeal. I anticipate that a decision should be rendered within the month.
Within a month, okay. Attorney, while the appeal on the appeals chamber's decision, on the Prrd chamber one's decision is still pending, are all related motions filed by the defense being reviewed simultaneously?
What do you mean by all other motions?
I mean, like, obviously there's a decision by the appeals chamber with respect to the motion you submitted to disqualify the chief prosecutor can, but all of the other pending motion, indefinite adjournment, jurisdictional challenge, and
yes, all of those matters are still live and active, and the appeals process on interim release does not impact on the timeline or the schedule for deciding other matters. In fact, we are busy, as you know, at the moment, litigating the issue of competency, fitness to stand trial.
Yeah.
I'm not at liberty to tell you exactly what's happening there, because once again, much of the information is subject to confidentiality. And I should like to stress that also in the matters relating to the former prosecutor, sorry, he's not the former prosecutor, he's still a prosecutor. Obviously, he's taken himself out on suspension. However, a decision on our request to disqualify him is, to the best of my knowledge, still subject to confidentiality.
Attorney, on that particular note, do you think that there is a reason to think otherwise, that the ICC handled all of the processes or the motions that the defense submitted with sufficient fairness and transparency?
I don't want to pass judgment on the ICC judges. It's not my position to do so. They have a job to perform. I have a job to perform. They make their decisions. If I believe that these decisions are erroneous, and I've told you that is legalese, then I file an appeal, and then the judges on appeal decide.
Attorney Nick, on a different matter, several civil society organizations have welcomed the Prrd Chamber's once decision, expressing relief over the denial of the former president's interim release. How does the defense team respond to this public sentiment?
Well, I'm not going to criticize victims. It would be foolhardy for me to do so. I do criticize, however, the comments made by certain civil society activists, masquerading as lawyers sometimes, in the media, criticizing defense submissions, criticizing defense activity, criticizing decisions rendered either in favor of the defense or against the prosecution, whatever you have it. So the criticism, or can I put it, the relief, as you put it, expressed over the rejection of the former president's request for interim release, I believe to be misplaced. Once again, there are many things that I could talk about which offend me. Many things said by civil society activists, which I choose not to comment on.
Attorney, do you think that these reactions reflect a misunderstanding of the legal process, or do they reveal, rather, deeper political or emotional divides within and outside the Philippines?
Well, let me talk about outside the Philippines first of all, because wherever I go in the world, and I travel a lot, I have always been met with support, wholehearted support for the former president. I have not come across one person who has said, we don't want the president to come home. Everybody wants him to come back to the Philippines. So when you talk about dissent, there's certainly no dissent in the diaspora. Not at any rate dissent that I've noticed. So I don't think that the criticism reveals anything too much. It just reveals the thoughts and impressions of a minority of civil society activists.
Attorney Nick, some detractors have criticized your handling of the case, suggesting that the Duterte family should consider appointing a new lead counsel. How do you respond to these criticisms?
Well, I know who those detractors are. It's a minority of people, a very vocal minority of people. At the end of the day, I'm not a magician. I'm doing my job. I'm doing the best I can. And furthermore, the former president is happy with me. And at the time that he should become unhappy with the way I'm performing, then he knows that he can fire me.
Attorney, What would you have to say to those who believe the defense strategy has not been effective so far, and how do you intend to strengthen your legal approach moving forward?
Well, it depends how you define success. If you define success in the matter of interim release, well, okay, we still have an appeal pending, and that's the only thing we've been unsuccessful with to date. The matter of competency is still pending. The matter of jurisdiction is still pending. Obviously, we've had a few requests to disqualify judges dismissed. I can't tell you what has happened with respect to the decision on the former or the current prosecutor who's now suspended. Maybe that will be released soon. I don't know.
Attorney Nick, just a quick moment or question with regards to the decision to disqualify the chief prosecutor. Does it have any effect at all, if at all, to the case of the former president before the ICC?
Once again, I can't comment on a decision because I don't know whether that decision has been made public or not. I can only tell you what I argued. What I argued was that the former prosecutor, I keep on saying the former prosecutor, it's the current prosecutor, current chief prosecutor, who has suspended himself. What I argued was that being conflicted, as I argued that he was, he couldn't have carried out an independent investigation which requires the search for exculpatory evidence. What is exculpatory evidence? That's evidence which can be used to acquit the former president. You see, the Office of the Prosecutor has resources that the defense doesn't have. And the Rome Statute, which is the constitution of the court, obliges the prosecutor to look for the truth. And by looking for the truth, he also has to consider exculpatory evidence. So what we argued was that having a prosecutor who formerly represented victims suddenly changing sides and becoming the prosecutor, he can't really carry out his role as the prosecutor as should be expected. So effectively, the investigation was contaminated. When he represented those victims, it was back in 2018. When the arrest warrant was issued, it was 2025. He became prosecutor in 2021, 2022. So 3 or 4 years went by when he was supervising the investigation against the former president, yet not disclosing the fact that he'd formerly represented victims. As I said, I can't comment on any decision that might have been rendered.
Just really one question in that regard. Would it be fair to say that because the appeals chamber decided that to disqualify him from further involvement, that all of this development in the case can be characterized as the fruit of a poisonous tree? That
Alvin, I can't comment on that. As I've told you, I don't know what the decision to release or not to release this information is at the present moment in time. I've been in a prison today.
Okay, sorry
I
about
can't
that.
tell you if there is a public decision on the matter or not.
Okay, I'm sorry
For
about
intents
that.
and purposes, I don't know what the decision is, and I can't tell you what the decision is.
Attorney, one last question. Do you have a message to convey to the Filipino people closely monitoring the case of the former president?
Yes, I do. Be strong, hope for the best, and trust us to do the very best for the former president.
Thank you
We're
so much.
working hard. We've made an appeal. We hope that he will be released and that he will continue to follow the case, continue to participate in the case, continue to allow his lawyers to prove his innocence, and all this not from the Philippines, but from a third-party state country, a state party to the Rome Statute.
Thank you, Attorney.